Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Strong Families podcast. I'm Amy.
And I'm Jo. And on this podcast, we have real talk with real parents about the highs, the lows, and the in-betweens of family life in the hopes that we can all learn a little something.
That's right. So grab a coffee, strap in, and we hope by the end of this podcast, all of our families have grown a little stronger.
I know I need it.
Uh-huh. Hi, Jo.
Hi, Amy.
How you going?
You're doing all right. It's been a big few weeks in my house.
Has
Just
it?
lots of stuff going on.
I mean, last week you told us all about Book Week. Was it a success?
Oh, yes.
Did Dogman make
Oh,
an appearance?
yes. Dogman won the grade
Stop it.
1 best dressed
Did you tell me this?
costume.
That's
I'm not sure.
amazing.
I felt like that was a real win.
That is
Like,
a real win.
They were announcing it.
Phoenix from
And
the
I
ashes.
I was more invested in the
Yeah.
best dress competition than I care to admit.
No, that's fine.
People who know me know that I'm pretty competitive, and I
No,
try
you're not.
I try to act cool, but they were making the announcement, and then they announced Oscar James
Oh my gosh.
for the best dressed, and I
That's
was kind of just like
amazing.
in the back, like fist pumping a little
that
bit.
possum
Like,
tried to ruin
Yes,
your chances.
That's right. So so that was the high. That was
Yeah,
the high
that's a
of
big high.
of the last week
Oh
or
my
two.
gosh,
so
amazing.
yeah.
Oh, good job. Good job. Well, good job to Oscar as well. You guys.
He was
you
pretty
guys.
excited.
Did you get anything?
He won a book, like a new picture book.
That makes sense for
which
Book
is a
Week.
pretty fun,
Yeah.
fun book, fun
Great,
read.
great.
I like anything that adds to our library. I'm
Yeah.
really, intentional about trying to build our
Yeah.
home library at home.
Yeah.
So this is a nice hardcover book, good quality. So yeah.
Winner.
Mm-hmm.
Fun. Well, today on the podcast, we talked to Amanda, and
Mm-hmm.
she actually reached out to us, which was really exciting. We know her personally, but she reached out and she told us that she had a history with postpartum depression.
Mm-hmm.
And she's on the other side of that. And so that fits
Yeah.
the theme. And she's like,
Yeah.
let's jump on and have a chat. And actually on my drive here tonight, I realized I don't really know much about postpartum depression at all.
Yeah.
Like I know it's a form of depression that is exclusive to women that have just had children.
Mm-hmm.
Outside of that,
Yeah.
I got nothing. I got no info.
Yeah, I have to admit, I guess, I probably don't know a lot of specifics
No.
either, other than, I guess, now having had 4 kids myself,
Yeah.
I've been around a lot of
Okay, yeah.
postpartum women. And so
Yeah.
I do think that the conversation about
Yeah.
mental health,
Yeah.
all, antenatal,
Yeah.
during pregnancy, post-pregnancy, is becoming a lot more common. And so I, have talked to more women who have
Yeah.
had, varying levels of, struggles.
Yeah.
But I think that's what I've learned as well, is that yes, it's really common, but
Yeah.
it also can really exhibit really
Yeah,
quite differently for
differently.
people.
Yeah.
But just having this awareness and having this conversation is helpful. So
helpful.
people listening to this podcast, whether they've experienced or not, they will be probably around people experiencing
Totally.
this, and so it's a really hope-filled conversation with
It
Amanda,
is.
isn't it?
It really is. Yeah.
She just has a really interesting story of how it affected her, but also, I think some really good practical advice of, what helped her heal.
Totally.
It's a really great listen.
Yeah, it's such a great listen. And I think what's interesting is that of all of our episodes of On the Other Side, this is probably the one that will, people will come across. What are the words I'm trying to say, Jo? What am I trying to say? You're more likely to come across postpartum depression than you are, say, an adoption.
Yes. Yeah.
A lot of people will be able to get something out of this.
Yes.
But let me have a look at what I Googled on my way here, because I was like, postpartum depression. Let's have a look. So the baby blues, right? So there's 3 different levels, I guess you can say. There's baby blues, which 50% of women will experience. And I think I did.
Yeah, I definitely did.
Yeah.
I think there's this huge hormonal upheaval.
Yeah, huge.
And again, for me, probably looked different after each pregnancy. There was some that I definitely rode through it more smoothly. And then, this last one with Tessa, I feel like I was much more wild ride of my emotions and hormones and things in that kind of postpartum phase, even probably for, months after having her. So, I think that would be classified, I guess, as that kind of baby blues.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like that is probably the one that's on people's radar the most, though. Like,
yes, you do get warned about it.
You do. Like, I'll never forget 3 days after Arch was born, I was laying in bed and I just burst into tears for absolutely no reason whatsoever. And then Chris rolled over and gave me a cuddle. And he's like, "Oh, babe, your milk must be coming in." You're going
wow. That's a very, attuned first-time dad.
I know. And I was
like, Chris.
"Oh, yeah. Like, it's a hormone change." Anyway, so I was definitely aware of baby blues. Postpartum depression itself, I feel like there's a spectrum. I feel like, and we talk about that with Amanda, that that's just a category within itself, but it can range, like it can present differently, et cetera, et cetera. But then there's also postpartum psychosis, which I'm going to look into more after this. I have not read much about it, but 1 in 500 to 1,000 new mothers will experience that. So this is wild. I'm learning so much. So this whole chat has inspired me to learn more about it myself. But there you go.
And just be prepared, and I guess be aware that people will that what we go through as mums, and particularly when you've just birthed a baby, what we go through is very real. Very real. It is okay to to take a moment to reflect and go, how am I going? Or if you know someone who's had a baby, how are they
Check
going?
In with them.
And it's totally normal for these things to happen, and there's definitely help available, and there's ways that you can you can get better. So anyway, let's
get into
jump
it.
into this discussion with Amanda, because she has a great story and a lot of wisdom to share.
Yeah, let's go. Okay, we're here. Sorry, we've been chatting for the last little while, and we decided we should probably chuck the mics
Get
on.
to podcasting.
Here we are. Hi, Amanda.
Hi.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. Thanks for actually reaching out, because you reached out to us.
I did.
And that's very brave.
It was a little bit.
Very brave, but I'm really excited.
Yes.
Yes, I'm very excited about our chat. It's going to be good.
So we always like to start our shows by asking people what your family snapshot is. So tell us, who is the Macaulay family and what do you like?
So there is me, obviously, and James, my husband. So we've been married for 14 years and together half my life, which is a little bit insane.
Whoa.
Yes. High school sweethearts.
Young love.
Yes.
Yay.
And we have 3 kids. We have JJ, or James Jr., who is,
That's so sweet.
James, my husband grew up in America and Canada. So naming children after yourself
Junior.
is a thing. So
Do you ever call him Junior, or is
no,
it always
he's
JJ?
been JJ his whole life.
Oh.
Life. So he's nearly 12, and then we have Mackenzie, who's nearly 9, and Amy, who is 2.5.
It's a good name.
Yes, we like it.
It's a real good name.
I actually had a dream when I was just found out I was pregnant with Amy. She was a surprise, and within a week of finding out, and I don't dream very often, had a dream that we were having a girl and we named her Amy.
Oh wow!
And
I've heard of people having
up,
these dreams.
Yes, and I woke up and I said to James, I just had this weird dream, and this is what happened, and we called her Amy. What do you think of that name?
Yeah.
And he was on board?
He was on board.
He wasn't like,
so there you go.
I would never call my kid that. He was like,
yeah, that would have been
do it.
awkward. But
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
So that's how she got her name.
What's the spelling?
AIMEE.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's
We
fine.
went a little bit left of centre.
No, that's all right.
Why not?
Shake it up a little bit. It is a very common name. You got to stand out.
Yeah.
Nice.
so what's your family like? What are the personalities in your household?
So much personality. So James, my husband, is he likes to think of himself as the comedic relief in any situation.
Great. He is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad you've experienced
Yes, I
that.
have. Yes.
So, but he's a musician, which he's very talented at. He works at a university here in Brisbane, which he's very talented at. He's extroverted, and I'm not. He's Yeah, he's good man. And then JJ is pretty much a carbon copy of James.
Perfect.
Which we're discovering more and more as he gets older and kind of comes into his, personality and whatnot.
Yeah.
So JJ likes gaming and Pokemon cards and all the things that young boys like. He's got a very quirky sense of humour, which is really fun to see him kind of develop. And he's very confident in he's got this quiet confidence about him.
Great.
He's fairly introverted, but he just knows who he is and he's happy with who he is. And
good.
So that's really cool.
Yeah.
And Mackenzie is the third parent in the house.
Great.
The responsible one.
Yes, which is great when we also have a toddler.
Okay, good.
But so that comes in very handy. But I do have to tell her fairly frequently and remind her that you are not the parent. You are the sibling of both her brother. She tells her brother off, tries to parent him, as well as the toddler. So it does come in handy, and she's super sweet with Amy, obviously. She loves being big sister. But I try my very hardest not to abuse that and try to maintain the sibling relationship. And have that not venture too far into caregiver.
It's tempting, isn't it? Like my eldest daughter is very responsible and everything. And I quite often am like, just leaving the room. Penny, can you just watch this? And can you turn this on the TV? And can you also, brush her hair? And I think, oh, yes, you're not.
Yes.
I probably should let you be a child still. So, yeah.
And then Amy is she's a toddler. She's lots of spunk and fun, and her laugh is just adorable. And she is obsessed with her siblings. Like, she comes home from daycare, runs through the house screaming, JJ Mackenzie, and runs up and gives them hugs. So we're very lucky that the three kids are just love each other.
Yeah.
And, they annoy each other as well, but for the most part, they get on really well.
Yeah.
Oh,
so that's us.
That's you.
Yeah.
Do you like being a parent? Is it
I do.
what you imagined it to be?
I do, and it's funny because I was not sort of a maternal girly girl growing up. Like, I didn't change a nappy before I had kids. I never babysat. Like, I didn't have younger siblings, so that wasn't me growing up naturally, like it is for my daughter Mackenzie. But as soon as I became a mum with my eldest JJ, I just, that typical fall in love instantly type of thing, and I just love it. And I see them just as very cool people.
Yeah.
Like
you like your kids.
I like my kids. Yes. They're fun and they're well behaved, and they're just good people.
Yeah.
So, and I feel very honoured to be able to parent them.
Yeah.
That's
and
awesome.
hopefully they continue to turn into lovely functional adults.
Yes, that's the goal.
That is the goal, right?
One thing I'd like to know, because just knowing you a little bit, I get this impression that you really like spending time with your kids, and you like having good conversations with them.
Yes.
Do you have any tips for us who's, our kids are probably a little bit younger than yours?
Yeah.
How did you foster this sense of like, we just have good chats?
Yeah.
Is there certain times you ask them things, or certain questions you have, or what has created this like really good communication in your household?
I think very early on, I just chose to lean into the teachable moments whenever they present themselves. And it's funny, I remember I had this revelation with JJ when he was in prep, I think, so he was like 5 years old. And we were putting him to bed one night, and he asked something on the lines of, where did babies come from, or what is sex? Or I don't remember the actual question, but it was that conversation, right?
Like, big breath in, like.
I did.
Okay.
I had this big breath in where I was like, do I brush this off?
Yeah.
Or do I take the opportunity?
What did you do?
And I had this, within milliseconds, I had this revelation of, if I, as a parent, can't suck it up and have this conversation with him at an age-appropriate level at 5, how can I ever expect him as a 15-year-old to come to me and talk to me?
Boom.
Like, I need to be brave.
Yeah.
It might be awkward. It might push me out of my comfort zone, but I need to be the parent.
Yes. Yeah.
Get over my own anxiety or my own feelings and have it. And it was great because I just answered the questions he had. And if he had another questions, I answered it. And then at the end I said, do you want to know anything more? And he said no. And that was the end of it. I let him steer the conversation. Yeah. And we didn't go into all the gory details obviously at 5, but I just so I think I've lent into all of those different moments as they kind of present themselves. And because I chose to try and do it from a young age, I'm not awkwardly trying to start that when they're 13.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
Yeah, let's have heart-to-heart connection now.
Yeah.
If you've brushed off the little connections when they're little.
Yes.
Yeah, so now they can trust you. And
Yeah,
they go,
totally.
if
That's my
I
hope.
chat to mum, she talks back to me. She listens to me
Totally.
and she validates like my curiosity.
Totally.
Yeah. The validation is a big thing as well. I remember someone told me this, or I read it in a book or something, that, you know, a 4-year-old's big emotions might look irrational to us, but they're very real to them. So it doesn't necessarily mean I, you know, indulge their every emotion and tantrum that comes up, but it's at least recognizing and validating that, hey, I see you. I see that this is tough, or you're mad, or you're whatever it might be. And then, you know, walking them on the journey beyond that. But it's recognizing that you're a person and you're having a feeling, and I'm not going to shut that down and dismiss it just because you're a toddler or you're 5 or you're whatever.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Makes
it totally
total
does.
sense.
Yeah.
It makes total sense. I was just like imagining Archer asking me like all of those yucky questions, like not yucky questions, sorry, hard questions. Hard
It's
questions.
okay, Amy. You can do it. You'll,
No, but
you'll be
I just,
okay.
No, but I think a lot of people's like natural thing would be like, oh, don't know, like just brush it off.
Brush it
But the
off.
fact that you're like, okay, no, we're gonna have this chat
Yeah.
with a 5-year-old, I really like that. Yeah, wowzers,
That's
cool.
cool. And I think you really know your kids' personalities too. Like I can tell that
Yes.
you're like, I know what they're into. I know, you know, it's not all like big hard conversations.
Yeah.
It's also like,
exactly.
let's just talk about
Yeah.
what you find interesting and
Yeah.
let's just like connect on those things. I really see that in your family. I want you to know I admire your family because I just think I want to connect to my kids the way you really know them and you really connect to them. So
I try to.
I find that really inspirational. So
Oh, thank you. That's very
We're
kind.
like 10 minutes in and my mind is a little bit
okay. Well, we should get to the whole point of our podcast
Yes, we
today because
should.
we will never get there. I feel like we're chatterboxes today.
Yeah, we are.
So this season's called On the Other Side, and you reached out to us because you heard that was our theme, and you said, hey guys, I don't know if you know this, but I'm actually on the other side of dealing with some pretty serious mental health issues all around, you know, postpartum stuff. And so, thank you for reaching out firstly and being willing to share your story because we know it's, you know, it's actually a pretty common experience for people to go through, but it can look really different for people. And so would you mind just sharing, I guess, your story of when did this start? What was your experience like? And we might ask you some questions along the way.
Yeah, sure. So yes, I experienced postnatal depression with my second, with Mackenzie. So I always knew that it was a possibility. I have a very strong family history of depression. So it was always on my radar that it might hit me at some stage. So I wasn't naive to that. And a couple of months after Mackenzie was born, I started to get the depression symptoms, I guess. And so for me, it was crying at the drop of a hat. Like I remember feeding Mackenzie and I was fine 1 minute and bawling my eyes out the next. So just constant crying like that. And a lot of exhaustion, and I feel funny saying that because every new parent is exhausted, obviously, but it's next level where I remember a day where I physically could not get off the couch. My JJ watched cartoons all day and just crawling off the couch to change a DVD back in those days was too hard. It broke me. So those were the two main symptoms I sort of had, I guess.
And did you put that down to I've got a toddler and a newborn, so I'm going to just assume that it'll get easier as the baby gets older? Did you assume that it was that?
I was fairly clued in along my whole sort of mental health journey. It probably took me 2 or 3 weeks where I sort of started to think, this is a pattern. This is hanging, everyone has a bad day or has a bad week, but this is now hanging on 2, 3, 4 weeks. This isn't going away. And so this feels like it could be something more than just lack of sleep or toddlers or, all of those normal things. I hid it for a little while as well. So even after I sort of realised, I'm pretty sure I have depression, I still kind of tried to just hide it. And not because I felt shame around it. Like for me, if you break a leg, you go to a doctor, you get fixed, it is what it is. If I got depression, I would go to a doctor, I'd seek help, I'd do what I need to do. To me, it's not a big deal in that sense.
Sure.
But I hid it because at the same time, my husband, James, we were actually going through a process of getting him diagnosed with autism at the same time. Which is fine, it doesn't change who he is, but it just it meant I was relearning how does his brain work, how do I communicate with him, how do I relate to him, how does this change our family dynamic now that we have this extra information. And for anyone who sort of understands anything about autism, feelings and empathy and those sides of things can be a challenge.
Yeah.
And so me hiding it was more around, we're still in the thick of navigating what autism looks like.
Yeah.
I don't need to add depression into the mix of what we're dealing with. So it was more about sheltering James.
Yeah, of course,
than it was about me not wanting to get help. But after, you can only hide these things for so long, they tend to just get worse. So after, it was probably about 2 or 3 months later, I thought, stuff this, like, I can't hide this anymore. I have to tell James, I have to go to a GP, I have to get help.
Do you think he was aware of...
Oh, he had no idea. And he'll
really?
He'll openly say that.
No, you were struggling.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
Is that because you were really good at hiding it, or because he was not super clued into
both?
Both.
Yeah. Like he's not clued into it, so he wasn't picking up any of the signs I was laying down. But I also was intentionally hiding it. I would go to the laundry and it would take me 15 minutes to do a load of laundry, and I'd just sit and cry on the floor for that time. So, or I'd cry in the shower, or he'd be at work while I was home with the kids when it was presenting. So it was both.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's heavy. But so you decided, no, I can't hide this anymore. Kind of. Was there anything that kind of got you to that breaking point, for want of a better word, or was it more just this realization of like, this isn't the life I want to live, and I need to do something?
I think the brief story I said before about being on the couch and not being able to get off the couch, from memory, that was quite close to me getting help. Because I thought at the end of the day, if I can't even get off a couch, like, something's wrong. I can't keep going like this. So I'm pretty sure that was around the same time. So I went off to the GP and said, this is what's going on, this is what I think I have, and they agreed and started medication and started the journey to try and get better.
Wow. And did you find like people around you, were you kind of really open with it, with like your other family or close friends? Were they helpful at the time or supportive at the time? What was that experience
I definitely
like?
remember telling my mum and my mother-in-law. So my mum, like probably lots of relationships, I tell her most things. So I remember telling her, I think after I'd been to the GP, and my mother-in-law pretty much knew straight away because I dropped JJ off to her. She babysat while I went to the GP.
Okay.
And she was like, oh, what are you doing today? And I was like, well, actually, going to GP, I think I have postnatal depression. She was like, oh, are you sure? Oh, okay. I was like, no, it's a thing. It's been hard.
Wow. Oh, wow.
I don't remember friends specifically. I'm sure I would never have intentionally hid anything. I'm fairly open book for the most part, even as I was kind of going through it to a certain degree. I don't remember specifically kind of, coming out and telling everyone.
Not making a Facebook post.
Exactly. FYI.
Status. Feeling depressed.
Yes.
Oh dear, no.
Well, it would have been a little bit different as well. That was a few years ago now. I feel like nowadays people would probably be like,
maybe
this is Instagram worthy. It's
actually,
something.
Well, selfie at the
GP.
maybe.
You got to document everything, don't you?
Yeah, these days. Oh my goodness. What was it like? Well, what was the process like from the GP to recovery? What was that road like? I feel like
convoluted.
Okay, great, cool.
Super easy.
Even asking that question, I'm like, this is a good question.
So the immediate step was very easy. It was go to the GP, start some medication. For me, I was very lucky from the medication sense. The first thing I tried worked. And that's not always the case for everyone. I had to tweak the dosage a little bit, but for the most part, it worked. I wasn't getting side effects. It helped, all of those good things. I went back to work 3 days later after all of this as well. So I was diagnosed on the Friday and went back to work on the Monday, which seems a little bit crazy, but for me, I needed to go back to work. I needed to get back into a routine. I needed to get out of the house and away from the children that I love, but I just needed that kind of structure and change of environment. So, but it does seem crazy when I say it out loud. So I went back to work, and I was sort of, getting better. The medication was helping, all of that was good. After a couple of months, work became incredibly stressful. There was lots of different things going on at the time. And so over the course of 3 or 4 weeks, work was just a nightmare, really, and very stressful. And it was around about that same time that my symptoms started to sort of morph. And no doctor has ever told me it's a direct result from stress at work.
Okay.
But to me, 1 + 1 = 2.
Yeah.
It's quite likely that stress
That
is
was
a
a
known trigger for some of these things.
Sure. Okay.
So I started to become incredibly irritable, just out of the ordinary irritable, to the point where it was so bad James nearly walked out on me one day.
Yeah, wow.
Not in the sense that he was going to leave me and divorce me or anything, but just in the sense that I can't be here with you right now. Like, I need to get in the car and get away from you.
Yeah.
I wasn't sleeping, but I was still functioning. So I would get like 3-4 hours sleep a night and be perfectly fine the next day. Like, I wouldn't go to sleep till 2-3 o'clock in the morning. Those were the 2 big things that I started to notice were changing. There were some other little things, like my speech became quite fast. I would just ramble and ramble and ramble. My thoughts became racing and fast. So there were some other things going on, but certainly the irritability and the no sleep were really big things. And again, I was fairly clued into my own journey. And so after like a couple of months of this, I started to notice a pattern of, I'm really irritable and these things are going on for about 3, 4, 5 days. And then I'm fine for a week. And then I'm back being this horrible person again that doesn't sleep. And then I'm fine again for a week. And it's not, I mean, we're women here and we all get periods and it didn't align. Didn't explain it. Yeah. So I was like,
this is not the normal hormonal kind of roller coaster that I've been used to in my adult life.
Or even if it was more extreme than what is acceptable.
Right. Okay.
Yes. So, hormones do some things, but this was outside of what would be acceptable there. And so after a couple of months of this, I started to think, this seems not right. This seems like it's more than just depression. It's lasted for a little bit longer. What's going on here? And in my world at that time, I had an acquaintance at church who I didn't know super well, but, I knew her a little bit and I knew enough about her that she had bipolar. Yeah. And I knew enough about bipolar to know that it had ups and downs. That was about it, all I really knew. And so something in me just kind of clicked where I was like, I'm having this really sort of irritable, weird moments, and then I've also got depression. And so I started to actually Google, what is bipolar? What could these symptoms be? I don't necessarily recommend Googling,
Dr. Google.
Diagnosing yourself. Sure. But, when I'm not sleeping at 2 o'clock in the morning, this is what you start to do, right? and eventually I started to read, the symptoms of the list of symptoms, and I thought, I feel like that. Yeah, that's happening. That's happening. Yeah, a little bit of that. This seems to align a little bit. Yeah. And so I took an online quiz.
Perfect.
Yes.
As you do to self-diagnose yourself, right?
I just like how honest that is, because I'm sure everyone listening, like, maybe it's not been over mental health, but it's been over something where you're like, well, I'll Google it before I talk to anyone about it, because you're like, what medical symptom am I feeling right now? Because it's just, you're curious, you want to, educate yourself, and you are like quite a logical person.
Very
so
pragmatic, very logical.
Yeah, so it sounds like you were kind of like, I'm having this experience and these are my symptoms. And it's not me, I know rationally who I am and what my personality is like. And so I just want to understand. I want to know why am I living this way? Why is my brain doing this to me?
Yeah,
so,
exactly.
Yeah. And what did the online quiz tell you?
It said there was a reasonable chance I had bipolar. It confirmed my suspicions. Yeah. But it was at least, an online quiz is an online quiz, it's not scientific or anything. But it was enough for me to at least go, okay, maybe there is something here.
Yeah,
maybe I'm not just overthinking it. Maybe I'm not crazy. And so I thought, maybe I do need to go back to my GP and actually just have a chat, broach the subject and see what they think. And again, fairly simple, kind of simple process. GP was like, no, that kind of makes sense. Got a referral to psychiatrist, saw the psychiatrist. That kind of fits, that makes sense. Started some medication. So, and was formally diagnosed with bipolar 2. So there's a few different variations. So bipolar 2 is sort of the less severe version, for want of a better word.
Okay.
So yeah, I ended up with bipolar.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
And then you were like, okay, now I have this kind of healing journey ahead of me. You know, you've got medication, you've got like professional help. Did you find that there was a lot of other things in your life that you had to go, all right, I have to look at, you know, what my thought patterns are like, or what my eating is like, or what my support systems are like? Like, did you find you were like, okay, there's a process now that I need to kind of be intentional with?
Yeah, a little bit to a certain degree, and different sort of strategies work for different people. For me, I ended up choosing to make a big change at work. Had this realization that you can have, you know, healthy work, healthy mental health or healthy health, and family. Like there's these three things, and at the moment, family and health is losing out, and that's not right on either front. And so I thought I need to make a change at work. So I stayed with the same company, but just took a demotion to something that was just easier. And that just gave me the less stress, more brain space to then actually focus on my family, focus on being well, and just recovering, basically. For me, it was really just mainly medication and time were the two main things for me. It was just allowing myself the space to just chill, just take some time and see how things kind of settle over time. Outside of that, I didn't do the exercise thing, to be honest with you, or the eating. I'm not too bad with my eating, but there wasn't like an intentional change or strategy around some of those things.
Life upheaval or anything.
I
mean, I'm no expert. I don't even know what the recommendation would be.
It's definitely a strategy for
anything.
some people. For sure.
Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, but you felt like, okay, I'm on like the right path now. Like I can see myself more able to cope and kind of starting to level out.
That's
awesome.
Yeah.
How did you mum through this?
Yeah. How do you keep showing up when all of that's going on?
Yeah. It was a challenge in some ways because because you're sort of part of the depression piece is being tired, even though, you know, I was treated and that was doing okay. But one of the side effects when you have bipolar, you take two medications, a mood stabilizer to bring you down and a antidepressant to bring you back up. So you need both to level you out. And the mood stabilizer I was taking, one of the side effects was exhaustion, basically lethargy. So
Awesome.
I know, right? And weight gain, you know.
Just all
fix
those
one problem
really
that cause
help you.
others. So I was definitely sort of verging on zombie-like there for a year or so while I was on this medication. But it was a step above manic, being, you know, having manic episodes, you know.
Oh my days.
So it was very much just the mundane routine of it seemed simple, but like keeping everyone alive and eating and going through the routine of wake, work, bed, bath, you know, that thing. So I definitely didn't have energy to be super mum or do much on weekends or all of, you know, that sort of stuff. I worked full time through all of this as well, which...
Yeah, you did. How to you then?
Amy's mind is getting blown.
I'm just sorry. Wow.
But in some ways that was helpful because it gave me the break away from home life to then come back and be mum again.
Totally.
And that's always been my personality, even outside of mental health stuff. Like I've always worked full time. It's just who I am. So mumming was a challenge because I just had no energy. And I think the thing I was grateful for in amongst this is that the kids were so young. They were sort of, 1 and 4 at the time. So they have no memory of this.
Yeah, okay.
And I was about to say they have no idea I had postnatal depression, but I do talk about it, so they know. But they have no memory of it.
Right.
So, and I think I knew that going through this. I was like, this sucks in the moment, and I'm not the world's greatest mum right now.
Right.
But they're 4 and 1, you know. In the grand scheme of things,
mum at home on the couch is what a 4-year-old needs a lot of.
And if I need a day of watching cartoons and just sitting on the couch with them, they're not going to complain. Let's be honest.
No. Yeah.
So And I had to be at peace with that as well.
Of course.
I had to not beat myself up over that.
Yeah, like know your limitations.
Yeah.
Because we all have limitations.
Yeah,
That's it. You know,
absolutely.
it doesn't matter, you know, what people are struggling with, whether
Yes.
it is a mental health thing or there's only so many hours in the
Yep.
day, and there's
Yep.
you know, we all have
That's
different
right.
personalities. We're not all
Yep.
going to be like the baking mum
Yep.
or the you know, go for a run with
Yeah.
my kids in the
Yep.
pram at 6 a.m. mum. Like we
Yep.
we
No.
can't do all of those
No.
things. So I
Yes.
think you've got to recognize, well, what limitations do I have, but also what am I good at with
Yeah.
my kids? I'm
Yeah.
good at making them feel heard and loved
Yeah.
and seen.
Yeah.
So I'll do that. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's really powerful just to recognize like, we're not all going to be
Yeah.
super mum.
Yeah.
That's
Absolutely.
okay.
Absolutely.
That's all right. Yeah.
So you're on the other side of this, would you say?
Yes.
We're on the other
Yes,
side.
well and truly, yes.
Great.
Which is great.
Love. Hooray. So what lingering effects, are there any lingering effects from this journey in your life now?
Not really. The
Okay.
one thing I'm conscious of is managing my stress, knowing that was a big trigger, particularly sort of it morphing to bipolar. I'm conscious of managing that. And I have times in my work at the moment that I have projects and there's deadlines and it's stressful and there's stuff going on, and that's fine. I cope well under stress, but it's making sure there's always the balance of I don't live in that state constantly.
Good.
You know, you have a project and you go through the stress for a couple of weeks or whatever the situation might be, but then you have time on the other side to take care of yourself and recover and have the balance.
Yeah.
And particularly in my current workplace, I've been very upfront about that. I'm very lucky to have a very supportive
Great.
workplace and boss who
Great.
knows that. So that's probably my one, not a lingering thing, but just something that I'll always be conscious of.
Yeah.
But the thing, what am I trying to say? I think the proof for me that they aren't any lingering sort of triggers or lingering issues is when I actually became pregnant with Amy a couple of years ago. Because we sort of intentionally didn't have more children for a few reasons, but one of them was my mental health.
sure.
It was just, if we have another child, this is a risk, and do we want to go there?
Yeah.
And the answer for me was probably not. I'm not so hung up on
Yeah.
having more children that I want to risk
Yeah,
this.
of course.
So, so we weren't going to have any more children, and then, you know,
Surprise.
we're having another child. And I have horrible pregnancies. I hate being pregnant. And at the time we were building a house, so we had that going on.
Yep.
It was at the start of COVID, and I worked in healthcare, so I was
managing that
I was working
stress.
in HR in healthcare, so I was
Yep.
managing doctors, patients, staff in
Yep.
amongst that space. I was at university at the time studying, so I had all of these other things going on.
Everything going on.
Everything going on. And I knew that this was going to be a make or break
Yeah.
for me. I knew there was a chance I would relapse and
Yeah.
that this was going to be the test of
Yeah.
whether I was healed or not.
Am I well? Am
Yeah.
I healed?
Because at this stage, I was actually off all medication. I'd been off
Okay.
all medication for a couple of years now.
Okay.
And I really felt like I'm well. I'm
on the
I'm
other
good.
side.
I'm
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
And particularly the bipolar piece, that's a permanent diagnosis.
Sure.
You know, depression can be seasonal, can
Okay.
come and go, but bipolar tends to be permanent. And even though I thought I was well and I'd been off
Yeah.
medication and been stable
Yeah.
for a couple of years, it was always in the back of my mind of,
Yeah.
am I really, am I really,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I knew that this would test this. And so in amongst my pregnancy journey, I disclosed all of these thoughts to my GP, my
Yeah.
obstetrician, made sure I saw mental health workers,
Yeah.
not because I felt like I needed it at that time, but I just wanted to be on someone's radar. So if things got bad,
Yeah.
I was already taken care of, kind of
Great.
thing. So during my pregnancy, I had all the potential triggers. You know, it was COVID, building house, all the different things. I had
Yeah.
the perfect melting pot.
Surprise
for a
pregnancy.
surprise
That's
pregnancy.
stressful enough anyway.
Yeah, and I really struggled through my pregnancy,
Okay.
which I felt guilty about because so many women don't have
Yeah,
that opportunity.
of
But
course, yeah.
that's a different podcast.
Yes, it is.
So yeah, I really had all the potential
Yeah.
for a relapse. But, gave birth to, I had gestational diabetes in amongst this. I had additional scans. Like I ended up having an MRI for Amy because they thought she had issues with her brain at one point.
Stop it.
So she was fine, but they just couldn't get the images on a normal ultrasound.
Okay.
And they were like, we can't see this. There could be an issue. It could be fine. So lots of things happening in my pregnancy.
Like Murphy's Law.
Oh yeah, it all hit.
Oh, days. Okay.
It all hit. Anyway, gave birth to Amy, and I felt fine, and I kept feeling fine, and no feelings crept up.
Yeah.
No, I felt fine.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And the real moment for me was when once she was 6 months old, because
Yeah.
the criteria for depression is within the first 6 months.
Right.
So I was like,
Okay.
once I get to 6 months, if something happens, it's at least not postnatal depression.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
just
it's a
regular
different
old
category.
depression. At least I proved that, I don't have postnatal depression.
Yeah.
And I've
that's
continued to
amazing.
be well since. So I just think that's proof of God's goodness and healing and all of those things that I had all of these potential risks, and here I am still fine.
Yeah. I think that's a real encouragement that just because you have struggled before doesn't mean it is permanent and that, you know, you can get well. And I mean, obviously everyone is dealing with different stuff. You know, people listening right now might be dealing with, you know, long-term issues, but there is hope, you know, and that your story has been like, I had this baby without those issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, but you were also really aware and motivated to be ready in case, you know, so it's
Don't
it's
be in
that,
denial in amongst it.
yes, that's right. It's
Be
that
wise.
balance of wisdom, but also like it doesn't have to be that way,
exactly.
and you can actually be well. So that's amazing.
Yes.
That's so cool.
And we were talking about Amy's name earlier. Her middle name is Joy, and we very intentionally chose that name very early in the pregnancy. Again, we chose the name Amy because we had that dream, and James actually picked her middle name Joy because he wasn't expecting the pregnancy either. Obviously, we were both processing it at the same time. And he very early on said, I think we should have her middle name is Joy because we just need to speak over her that even though we're processing this and we might be struggling, that's not a reflection on her. She is purpose. She is joyful. She is all of these things.
She will bring joy to us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we are going to speak that over her from the very beginning, even if we're not feeling it right now.
Oh, that's amazing.
That's so awesome.
What would you say to someone who might be listening right now who is either in the thick of a mental health battle or, you know, could potentially have that in the future? What words of encouragement, I guess, would you give them?
I would probably say two things. The first one would be just to never give up hope.
Yeah.
If you have hope, you can cling on. If you can just keep reminding, even if you don't believe it, just keep repeating to yourself, this will pass, it'll be okay, whatever those words of encouragement you want to say to yourself. Because if you have hope that it'll end at some stage, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's when you don't have hope that things start to become a bit dangerous there.
Yeah.
So just cling on to hope because it will end. You might not know exactly how or exactly when or exactly what it'll look like, but it will pass at some stage. And the second thing I would say is tell someone. Tell your spouse, a friend, a GP, a pastor, someone, because life is too hard to do it on our own. We're not designed to do life on our own. So tell someone, and that person may not know exactly what to say or exactly what to do, but they can give you a hug, they can listen, they can encourage you, they can keep you accountable when you say, I'm going to go to a doctor. They can check up on you lovingly. And
Did you do that?
exactly. So just cling to hope because it'll be okay. As cliche as that sounds. Yeah. And make sure you tell just someone, anyone.
Cool.
Oh, I love that.
And we did want to, I guess, knowing that we were talking about this tonight, we did want to put out there that there is resources available too.
Yes,
you know, you can talk to, obviously your GP, talk to a friend, but you can Google Beyond Blue, Lifeline. There's lines that are, 24/7. You can talk to someone.
Yes.
So, if anyone's listening right now and they don't
please.
feel that they have someone to talk to, there is
There's always someone.
there is some people you can talk to who will point you in the right direction to get the help that you need, and just listen to what you're going through right now. So
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, my mind's still blowing a little bit, so just bear with
Amy's
me.
processing all
I'm
of
processing
this.
so much because honestly, I have no I don't know much about postpartum depression.
Yeah.
I don't know much. So I'm learning so much.
Yeah.
So my mind will continue to blow, but while it's doing that, can I ask, because we
Yes.
ask every guest,
Yes.
what is your mum hack? What is your life hack to get you through parenting right now?
Mine is probably, it might be a little bit boring, but for me, I meal plans.
Preach it.
Meal
Yes.
plans. To me, I don't have time to go to the shops every second day and wander the aisles and think about what to cook to dinner. So
Isn't it crazy that we used to do that? Like
Oh,
I
I
used to
know.
work in a shopping centre and every second day I'd be like, what do I feel like eating? And just casually like chat on the phone to my sister.
Yeah.
And so I'd get distracted like wandering the aisles and be like, I've been in the supermarket for half an hour getting stuff for dinner. And I just think back to those days. I'm like, I wasted so much
Waste of time.
time.
Also so much more expensive.
yes. And that
Yes,
was my
so it's a
primary
budget
reason I
thing.
started it.
We can't be doing that these days.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because I do my shopping normally on a Saturday morning, do my meal plan, look at what's in the pantry and the freezer. If it's
Yes.
a tight week, it'll be like fried rice and pumpkin soup.
Yeah,
If it's
bring it
not
on.
so much a tight week, then we'll do something else.
Some nice meat.
Exactly, right? Something other
Nice.
than mince.
Yes.
And I normally, semi-involve the kids. I'll normally say to them, like, what do you feel like for dinner this week? Or what do you want on the meal plan this week? And if they don't care, then that's fine. But at least they have the option to have a say. So when it comes mealtime, they can't complain.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Do you know what I like? I like that kids generally like the cheap meals.
Yes,
I'm
they do.
loving that. I'm
Yes.
like, yeah, we can have pasta again,
we can.
tuna
Sausages
bake.
and pasta is
Yeah,
the
we
winner
can
at
have
the
the
moment.
mince. Yeah, I love that because if they were like, just a sirloin, please.
Duck and orange tonight.
And at what age do Macca's employ?
So that's good. So yes, meal planning. I need to get back to
Yeah.
being a bit more organized because I somewhat meal plan, but
Yeah.
probably not as structured as I would like to.
Yeah.
And I think it does make a difference.
Yeah.
Do you
And
feel
it's
like
not so strict that I have a meal plan for every single night of the week and we stick to it. I just have, 6 or 7 meals planned and we pick and choose what we want during the week. But at least I know I've got a plan. I've got all the ingredients.
Yes.
Normally in there I make sure I have 1 or 2 like really easy, quick meals as
Yes.
well.
For those
For the days when you're really exhausted or James is out of the house or whatever
Yeah.
it might be.
Yeah.
No,
No, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Meal planning has rocked my world the last 2 weeks. I cannot believe how much I have saved.
Yes.
Money-wise.
Yep.
Actually having a plan. Not just going, add that to my cart, add that to my cart.
Yep.
And then a week later, add that to my bin.
Yep. Half of it hasn't been used.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Anyway,
Yeah.
so yes, that is a good tip, good life hack. Perfect.
Thank you. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast and just being so open to share something that is, quite private for a lot of
Yeah.
people that don't want to share. But I think there is power in sharing stories because your experience, while unique to you and your family, there is a common thread that many people, I think, have experienced. And, just that message of hope, I think, is really powerful.
Yeah.
So thank you for telling us. And next time I see your little baby, Amy, well, she's not a baby anymore. She's a toddler, little girl, Amy. I think, we'll all have that smile on our face that, she is joy and she has been this real, story of how you have been
She's
healed,
my living,
restored.
breathing testimony.
Yeah,
Much.
so cool.
I love that.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Thanks, Amanda.
Pleasure.
Well, that's all for this episode of the Strong Families podcast.
We are so glad you joined us for this chat. If you want to continue the conversation, you can find us on Instagram at strongfamilies.au or on Facebook. We would love to hear from you. Now, go enjoy your week, enjoy your family, and we'll join us again next week.
Cool. See you next time, guys.